What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the 5th update on the tier list. I appreciate you guys coming in. If you guys have no idea what happened today, well, I guess this week, a lot of class changes, which definitely will impact the tier list making. A few specs on a S tier, a few specs went down to the A+ tier. Generally speaking, we're starting to finalize the quote-unquote meta going forward to Season 2. Now, be here with me when I say this. This should be taken with a massive grain of salt, okay? Nothing I say today is gonna be final. Things will be changing in the future. There's still gonna be at least 2 more weeks of tuning, which means if your spec is bad right now and it's placed lower, that doesn't mean it's gonna be bad, because there's a still chance for that spec to go higher, okay? That is a disclaimer, massive one. Second disclaimer, if you guys have already seen how we do the tier list, there are 6 rankings. C tier means you're pretty much, I don't want to say the word, you know, but you know what I would say? It's a bad word. It begins with D and ends with shit, okay? B tier, anything from B to B plus means Q simulator. A tier means you started to look already above average, looks pretty decent, looks pretty good, you know? A plus tier means you're pretty juiced up, likely one step away from being meta spec, but not quite there so far. And S tier means you're absolutely turbo cooked. So yeah, that's pretty much the tiers. Hunter, unfortunately, if I could say anything else besides you're pretty bad everywhere, it's just no point to pick it up. But anyway, TWW spec, lack of single target, mediocre AoE damage outside of cooldowns, still great AoE during cooldowns, target cap spec, all of this together goes down the drain. In my opinion, the current Sentinel, even after the rework, plays exactly the same as you were playing before. The rework did nothing, pretty much nothing to you. Now, if you're playing Dark Ranger, however, the rework has played you pretty good. You know, like rotationally speaking, visually speaking, pleasant to see and you know, feel. But honestly, in terms of roll power, and here is the only roll power, down bad. The worst 2 targets, one of the worst single targets, pretty poor consistent AoE damage. All of this together leads to a C tier performance coming from the Hunter. And unfortunately for all of you that are playing out the Hunter, you are the only spec from a DPS point of view that is down bad. Urgent buffs must be present. Now keep in mind also, on top of this, Hunter in my opinion is doing a lot better in raiding, okay? Keep in mind. Restoration Shaman on the bottom. I know a lot of people feel like Resto Shaman belongs higher, but I'm gonna give you my opinion why I believe it's C tier performance. One word, I guess. Output. Healing output of Restoration Shaman is definitely not a problem. However, in my opinion, they do the bottom of the damage output, which I believe is a determining factor of placing the specs on S, B, A, and S, so forward. The utility part of Restoration Shaman got unchanged, except for the AG removal. They're very solid there, and it's likely a spec that you're never gonna struggle with. Healing-wise as well, I think they're pretty good. I wouldn't say the best, but pretty good. A lot better in Raid than they are in Mythic Plus. Mana issues are one of the other issues that I obviously have to mention. Apart from lack of damage output, mana issues is likely the biggest on this spec compared to any other healing specialization, which is still a factor for my rankings to be down to the C tier. Now, if they were to fix that, plus give them a little bit more passive damage output or any other way to contribute towards your overall damage capabilities, I would, you know, be delighted to place them higher. But for now, C tier is a relatively good, you know, placement for you. Holy Priest, relative to Restoration Shaman, actually does have, in my opinion, output issues, especially like mass healing, party healing. Definitely feels like a spec that needs a little bit more love towards healing in a 5-man party. A lot better, however, in raiding, so that's not going to be a problem there. Damage output, in my opinion, a lot more solid than Restoration Shaman. Lack of control is another issue that I have with a Holy Priest. Unfortunately, just like this Priest, lack of kick, no mob control is something that's going to hurt you ultimately down the line. The utility part as well is unchanged, so pretty much Holy Priest has everything that has always had, especially compared to like last season. Nothing has changed there. So it's still a solid healer, one of the easiest to play in. So if you like to play easy healing spec and you're wondering, for example, hey, you know, I want to enter and try to get something easy rotationally, maybe try out Holy Priest. So that's one of the very good advantage. Overall, good healing output. Good damage output, mediocre healing output, lack of mob control, and movement abilities are also quite lackluster, you know, but that's whatever. That's about it. So to summarize the difference between a Restoration Shaman and Holy Priest, as I already said, I believe Holy Priest does have better damage output than Resto Shaman. Does not have mana issues like Shaman has. But however, on behalf of healing capabilities, I believe Shaman is better than Holy Priest, like purely healing wise. Which again, it could be an issue in some cases. Now, I disregard the PI value, obviously, but both provide good group utility. In my opinion, Shaman does have much better mob control than Holy Priest, which is a big advantage, for example, if you're playing in a full pack. I'm not gonna tease you guys, it's gonna be Protection Warrior. I've already mentioned this in my opinion. This is, even though it has been getting changes pretty much every single week, this week they didn't get, actually they got very, very small adjustments on, I think, Thunderous Blast damage increase and overall tank damage increasement, but that's the case for like every single tank. Every single tank got buffed by like between 15 and 20%. Some a bit more, some a bit less. I think after everything that has happened this week, Prot Warrior is around B tier performance. Compared to last season, for example, the playstyle is a lot slower. So if people thought, for example, hey, Prot Warrior is too spammy last season, this season is a little bit less APM required from you. In regards to self-sustain, most definitely I could see an issue there, especially compared to the top tier specs. The damage department is okay. They really, you know, I wouldn't say you're impressive, you're just okay there. In regards to utility that you provide, I mean, a lot of people hated me for saying this, but in comparison to top tier spec utility, Protection Warrior has not that much value outside of, you know, your natural stops. I mean, every single spec has stops. Shockwave, for example, Stormbolt, Intimidation Shout. I mean, those are things that you can stop, obviously, the targets from casting, but the mob control is not as good, for example, let's say, compared to Prot Paladin or Vengeance DH. The group utility, pretty much outside of Battle Shout and Rallying Cry, you don't really have anything to help your team. I mean, Intervene, Mountain, Taint, Small, DR, Shield, whatever. Like compared to Paladin, for example, yeah, just not happening, boys. Outlaw Rogue is being promoted from B to B+ tier. With the most recent buff to the spec, 6% outer buff, I believe now it's going to be slightly better. Now, I have several issues with Outlaw Rogue. The first and foremost is obviously the lack of burst damage, which could be problematic in some areas, specifically where you don't have AR up, for example. Target cap is an issue, obviously, but it's not as bad as other specs. I believe that if they increase the damage output coming from Rogue, just purely numerical, this spec will be a lot better. You already have everything that a A tier spec or A+ tier spec needs. The only thing that they just need to change is further damage buffs to the spec. That's pretty much it. I also don't like the gameplay. Although the rankings have nothing to do with the gameplay, I dislike the Outlaw gameplay because the APM requirement for the spec is insanely high. You have to press buttons all the time. Like, there is no stop. You don't have any stops in between. It's like perma cooldowns, perma buttons. I think it's just something that will probably need to be changed in the future if people love to, if people like love to explore it. So now it's much more spammy than Warrior, much more spammy than DH. I think this is the highest APM spec in the game so far. Out of all the DPS specs I tried, Outlaw is the highest APM. I haven't pressed that many buttons on any other spec. None so far. So it's still an issue because people that, let's say, are starting Mythic Plus or have less experience, it's gonna be a you know, problematic. But anyway, besides this, B+ performance from them. Now, Survival Hunter has gotten better. Hence why you are B plus right now performer compared to B tier from last week, which is obviously a good thing for you. I don't think your damage numbers are as good to be part of the A tier, but I don't think you should be part of the B tier as well. So in between A and B, a B plus is more relatively a spot that you fit in. Good consistent damage, decent single target, good prior in AoE as well. Target cap in some cases, which wouldn't really matter if you pull like less than 8 mobs, for example. Utility, I would really hate to say mediocre, but nothing important. For example, like party buffs, you don't really have any of those. But overall, a good enough toolkit to save any situation. AoE stops, single target stops, you know, the removal of enrage effects, good defensiveness, for example. The only thing that I love them to get better at is just pure damage. I think the single target has been improving, but not good enough to be placed higher. I have a spice take for survival. I would love for the wildfire bomb not to be a con anymore. I would love the fire bomb, the wildfire bomb to be like a area of effect. Let's say something like a seed of corruption. You know, you just throw the bomb and everything in between that radius gets to be hit. The frontal con is such an outdated technique that I would really love for them to fix it. That's like one of the issues I'm having with spec so far. And besides, obviously, just more damage numbers. And last but not least, BM Hunter is doing infinitely better than Survival, so that gives you even less incentive for the spec to be placed higher. B plus tier for Monk. A lot of issues with the Monk itself. Now, first of all, I would like to say this. I am super disappointed with Blizzard developers that you guys haven't changed the Monk itself a lot going from Season 1 to Season 2. Most definitely expect that it felt ignored, although it has gotten a few positive changes. I still feel like self-sustain and durability is an issue for the spec itself. Now, the damage contribution is fine, in my opinion, in a good state, but durability-wise, especially against, let's say, heavy magical hits, it could be an issue. Definitely could be an issue. And self-sustain, once again, it is one of the main factors why I think it should be in a B plus tier. You also require a lot more healing attention, which definitely is a downside for the spec. But overall, I can't be too sad about it because we already know Blizzy doesn't care about brews. So, unfortunately, B plus tier coming from Brewmaster. Now, if they were to buff the survivability part, or maybe give them more self-sustain, then I'm more inclined to put the spec higher. But until then, I think B plus is a compliment for them. Also, one last thing about Brew. One of the hardest tanks to play. So, as one of the hardest tanks to play, you shouldn't really be one of the worst. Because it makes no sense. Why would you try so hard in a spec that's gonna end up being like, at most, mediocre? You know? It's super, super bad. They should definitely think about that. At least make it easier, if anything. So more people can give it a try. But that's my opinion. Press Evoker, definitely a spec that I believe it just needs more from like damage department. Healing wise, they're fine, nothing too impressive there. The toolkit itself is fantastic, by the way. One of the best utilities from any healer so far, which I'm very happy to say so. However, both outputs are just not enough to be placed on anything higher than B plus so far. Better than rating than the Mythic plus. A lot of things have to be changed for the spec to like be played higher. And Augmentation Evoker is still one of the best specs, hence why they don't really want to overlap two specs at the same time unless two of them are broken as fuck. In this case, Press definitely is not broken as fuck. So yeah, all of this combined together leads you to B plus tier. Also, the fact that you're one of the harder specs to heal with is not a massive issue, because as everybody knows, mostly everybody don't know how to play around Press Evoker. You're required for people to understand that you have to have targets in front of you to make the best healing outside of your cooldowns or even during cooldowns. So that is an issue. Outside of Press Evoker, I have Holy Paladin also placed on a B plus tier. The only thing that is holding Holy Paladin to go to the A plus or even S tier is just output. That is the TLDR. Both healing and DPS output are, in my opinion, too low for the spec to be considered in the higher tiers. Everything else is fantastic. From very good utility to great mob control. You're quite tanky as well. Unfortunately for all of you, this spec doesn't do enough healing. Neither does enough DPS to be placed A+ or S or whatever. So that's it. If they were to buff Holy Paladin, I would love to play that shit. In my opinion, that's one of my personal favorite heals to play with. Very, very strong and incredibly fun to play with. Not as, with, because it has everything to save you. Perimeter percent DR, CR, Freedom, Lay on Hands, Sack, AM for example, and so many more things to help you survive. So I absolutely love Holy Paladins. Arcane Mage, not Death Evoker. Unfortunately, Death is higher than Arcane. Arcane Mage going down to B tier. Actually going up. They were in the like lower end of B+. So now they are on the very top of B+ tier / lower A. To be fair, Arcane Mage has still gonna have their great consistent prior target damage. I guess the mini burns and the burns, etc. is still gonna be part of the spec. Unfortunately, not as dominant as before. The single target right now is a little bit behind than what I usually like to see from the spec itself in Mythic Plus. It seems like the mass AoE is still an issue. They tried their best to like prevent it or like fix it, but in a big large pools, definitely you could struggle as well. Although has been better than before. So I think that's all I have to say about Arcane Mage. They have everything else. Good utility, incredibly tanky, good mob control. There's just damage output right now, especially in like mass AoE, is problematic. I also don't like how the spec plays out. They've tried many times to like fix the rotation and do this and do that. It's still, when I play the spec, just something doesn't click. I don't know what, but something doesn't click. It just makes no sense to play it. Just not enjoyable. But again, I don't rate specs based on like enjoyment. That's whatever. I put my bias on the side. I think B+ tier for them is a relatively good placement for Mythic Plus. Affliction Warlock. Now, before I continue, I would like to clear this air once and for all. There are some conditions on Affliction Warlock that makes them better, and you can jump to the A+ tier list. There are some conditions in some keys where Affliction Warlock can do much better than what they can do on like your average keys, etc. If I have to consider all key levels as well, I believe Affliction Warlock is around A tier placement. Several reasons why that is. In my opinion, quality of life updates must be done to the spec itself. The damage department is not an issue. I believe that they have very good prior damage, great AoE, especially burst AoE damage. Single target is decent. Unfortunately, the Agony play style, the Veiltain being 30 seconds, Agony being 20 seconds is an issue, because when you're fighting a pack and you already apply your dots on the targets, for example, you apply your Veiltain, your Seed of Corruption, you get your Hound, your Soul Road, you get a snapshot with your Dark Glare, for example, for extension, and then the pack, another pack is being put on top of this, feels pretty bad. Or a similar situations where, for example, you don't really have Veiltain and enter a pack, you know. It just definitely needs a quality of life update for the spec, which I've proposed several ways to fix it. One of the ways is to remove Veiltain and add Agony to a Seed of Corruption. If that's something you don't like, at least give Veiltain a 20 seconds cooldown instead of 30 and make it have, let's say, 2 charges. That's pretty much it. There are some conditions that makes Affliction Warlock better than what they are right now, but overall, if I have to consider all key levels, I think A tier placement is more in line for them. Fury Warrior going down the list, going to A tier from A+. Now, I have my explanations. Hold up. Before you get mad, let me explain. Why do I think Fury is A tier. Okay. Now, first of all, just like Affliction, there are a few conditions that make Fury Warrior much better, especially in the keys, for example, where you don't pull large, like Workshop, for example, like Theater of Pain, target cap dungeons where a Fury Warrior is like A+ tier top song. It's really, really solid. Unfortunately, whenever you pull large, let's say 10 mobs at a time, and that seems to be the case in all of the dungeons so far. It's mass AoE season, by the way. Mass AoE season is the bane of Fury Warrior. They are one of the worst in mass AoE because you are target cap. Most of your abilities are target cap. Not only this, but your sibling spec now got super buffed up. So there's literally no reason to play Fury now, because Arms is so much better because it got buffed, and you are also target cap. The utility part, although of course it's not the greatest, but that's not why you are in A tier. All of this combined together, I think an average performance of like A is much more appropriate than A+. So you have been demoted from A+ down to A. I am so sorry to everybody that plays Warrior. That is my honest take for the spec. The single target is great. I love the Fury Warrior single target. The rotation feels good, quite easy spec to play. If there were no target caps, I would have placed you a lot higher. But that has to be considered. That has to be considered, unfortunately, to Fury Warriors. Okay. Anyway, that spec has been promoted from B+ to the A tier. Next in line is gonna be Devastation Evoker, going from B+ to A. You have been promoted. Now, why is Devastation Evoker in A tier? First of all, as I already said, your damage profile after third or fourth consecutive buff has gotten infinitely better. Great burst damage, better sustained damage, good single target. Utility is also amazing. The target, obviously the target radius, that 25-yard radius still sucks, but that's not the main reasons why you placed A tier. Overall, I believe that there are some, in some keys, you're gonna perform even A+. For example, like some low level keys, when mobs don't last that long, you have very good chance for you to shine even higher. Overall damage contribution is actually not looking to be S tier performance. However, with all combined together, I think around A tier is more appropriate to you. If the only way to get to the A+ tier, S tier, is if Oak is bad and if you do more damage. I think overall you are doing very solid, but not solid enough to be part of the S tier. And one last thing to say about Devastation Evoker, even though mostly nobody plays this spec because everybody's Oak Evoker mains now, the spec itself is something to not be slept on. I guarantee you, if you invite Dev Evoker, he's gonna do fantastic damage. Do not sleep on them. Do not underestimate them. They're very good, especially like the low level, mid level keys. Very strong pickups. Unfortunately, not S tier worthy for now. Next in line is gonna be Unholy Death Knight. Why is it heavy RNG? Well, try to play Sunlin and Holy in Mythic Plus and come back to the channel and ask me why is it RNG. Boys and girls, even though Unholy is A tier, I have a lot of things to say about Unholy. Okay, first of all, let's begin with the negatives. Single target, at most mediocre. AoE output, crazy good if you proc Blood Beasts. If you don't proc Blood Beasts, still good, but not S tier performance in my opinion. Very strong survivability toolkit, so very tanky spec itself. Good Mythic Plus utility, good mob control. If you're playing Rider, most definitely a lot less RNG in the game, better single target, but your 2 to 6 targets is then worse. So there are some pros and cons to the spec. There are some conditions that Unholy can climb higher than A tier, depending on how you pull, depends who you are in the group. But overall, I expect the spec to play around A tier on average, including high level keys, low level keys. On average, I would say, yeah, I would say A tier performance is most definitely A warranted for you so far. So I offer several solutions to the spec. So some way to guarantee the Blood Beasts, especially for Sunlin, to be always proccable after you cast, let's say, Dark Abomination. Maybe you get like a 50% chance to proc it, maybe. Or I don't know, like how would you otherwise fix it, the RNG though? Because you do sometimes get like random blood strikes outside of your dark transformation. But I feel like what is the solution here? Like how would you guys fix Unholy RNG if you play Sunlin? Like how? Because I can't think of any. Apocalypse is not RNG. It's not what I talk about. Dark Abomination. Sorry. Okay, Dark Abomination. Sorry. A-bomb. Abomination. Sorry. My lack of pronunciation here definitely present. Proc Blood Beast with the A-bomb and some random procs with Vampiric Strike. I don't know, boys. Assassination Rogue. What happened to the spec? First of all, I would like to clear the rumors. Assassination Rogue tier set has been finally fixed. Your Crimson Tempest dots does not consume the tier set, which is great. The AoE output of Asa Rogue is still fantastic. Looks to be great. Are you as good as last season? Definitely not. Your tier set is not as good as last season. Your prior target is still very good. Your single target, in my opinion, is trash. Well, trash is hard word, but let's just say at most average. The toolkit, the utility stays the same. So that's about Asa Rogue. Great AoE, good prior damage, lack of single target. I believe all of this combined together should drive you around A tier performance. Also, in some cases, there are some energy starvation to the spec, which can be noticeable. Not all the time, but you can feel it. It's still present. But that's minor thing. How to improve the Asa Rogue? Give them more single target, I would say, and this spec is gonna climb to A+, in my opinion. Like right now, you'll have one of the bottom single targets so far across all specs in Mythic Plus. I don't talk about like, I don't talk about like rating, just Mythic Plus. The Restoration Druid is gonna be to A tier. Good. Alright. So, what can I say about the rest of Druid? Overall, has increased a lot. Like, the performance of Druid compared to last season has increased a lot. Like, both HPS, DPS has been better. The quality of life updates have been much better, especially given around playing around fluid form. I don't think that the outputs are yet to be S tier competitive. I don't think so. However, everything else combined together, including the utility, should drive you around A tier so far. There's several issues of it, obviously, as every spec has of them. But I think all of them are being overworked if you consider their utility in place. Because Mark of the Wild, one of the best in the game. And I think they have a very good chance to be picked up if other healers on S tier gets to be nerfed. Also CR. CR is something that not a lot of specs have so far in S tier. Again, massive plus. So, yeah, if they increase their healing better, or like let's say do more damage, then there's a very high chance they spec to get to the A+ tier. But so far, I don't think it's enough yet. It's gonna be Frost Death Knight coming immediately after Assassination Rogue. Now, unfortunately, Frost Death Knight does not perform as dominant as you were in Season 1. Your damage output outside of cooldowns are problematic. Your burst damage is fantastic. Proud damage still remains very strong. Minor cooldowns still slap, but overall damage appears to be much lower than what other specs can do right now. Single target is pretty good. I would like to mention that as well. You're tanky, utility unchanged, mob control unchanged. The only way to increase DK performance, give them better sustain. Like during cooldowns, you're amazing. Even minor cooldowns are pretty strong. But in between this, it's just where the gap comes from with other specs. Unfortunately, it is the case so far for them. Demonology Warlock going to A tier. Why is that? First of all, I would like to say this. Demon hasn't seen any changes for the past probably close to a month. Very surprising. The consistent damage has become much better. Obviously, as everybody knows. Great single target, good consistent damage, good burst, but neither of the numbers look to be worthy enough to be placed in S tier. That's it. The output itself is just not worthy to be part of the S tier. That is the only reason why we're putting Demo here. Utility unchanged, mobility unchanged, defensives unchanged. So better tier set, better consistent damage, and that's pretty much it. That's all. If you were to get buffed, then It goes a bit higher, but overall, I think around A tier is where you can be. Yeah, unfortunately, you cannot dispel. So because Demonology doesn't play Imp or Fail Hunter, you don't benefit from double dispelling on a boss, and you also don't benefit from having Fail Hunter Purge, you know, which could be useful in some cases, some dungeons, but like Urukuri, for example, Theater of Pain, for example, there's like a plenty of shields to be fixed. Subtlety Rogue climbing the tier list compared to last season. First and foremost, there are still bugs surrounding the spec. Your tier set is still bugged out, not fully fixed. So technically this spec could rise higher than what we're placing right now. It could also go lower, depends on how they decide to tackle the tier set. But pretty much TLDR here is very strong burst, very good single target, better to target damage profile. It looks to be fantastic in all key levels, but we don't know to this state if their performance can actually stay like that, or are they doing more than intended. Because, for example, my rogue, my tier set on a 10 stacks never disappears. The tier set stays there presently all the time, which makes no sense. Why is my tier set never going down the 10 stacks? Or sometimes my tier set doesn't work at all. Like there's cases where my tier set just doesn't proc at all. So all of this considered together could make Sub Rogue place, you could make it place higher if they decided to fix it on a better side or lower. So we gotta just wait and see. Unless it has been last night, it's still bugging out for me. I tried it yesterday, last night, it was still bugging out. Unless they fixed it last night. Yeah. Very concerning, by the way, because the patch comes immediately after this. I mean, like 9 more days and the patch arrives. Kind of already getting concerned about it, but hopefully they'll do it until next week. You know, peace. Overall, the utility is unchanged from season 1. Survivability unchanged from season 1, pretty much stay the same. I think it has gotten much better than last season. I think the tier set of Sub Rogue is extremely good. That's one of the things that that's one of the things people have been mentioning so far, and I will definitely confirm your tier set is very good compared to last season. So technically this spec can go higher than what we rank it right now. Maybe can go to A+, depending on how employees of Blizzard decide to fix the bugs, or if they will ever fix it actually. Windwalker Monk to the A tier. Much improved performance coming from Windwalker Monks in Season 2. Very strong single target, extremely good 5 target cleave. Strong utility, good defensiveness. You are target cap. That means on a place where you pull like super large, you fall behind from other classes. But don't worry, in my opinion, up to 8 targets is still gonna do pretty good, but in a massive pulls, you are gonna fall behind. That's one of the biggest, you know, disadvantages for Windwalker Monk. But all of this put aside, I think your single target is super strong, because your raid builds, Mythic Plus builds are pretty close, like pretty similar, like not exactly the same obviously, but the ST is looking to be very strong here. So yeah, all this together itself is inlining more to like A tier. There are some keys, for example, where Monk can be A+ tier. There are some keys like this, for example, like Theater of Pain, Workshop, Floodgate, definitely. But wherever you pull like super large, like Motherlode, Cinder Brumetery, for example, fortunately we're getting slammed. Rooker is also pretty good for monks as well, except for like last part, you know. So yeah, I think overall A tier performance is a lot more pleasable for them, put it this way. Next in line is gonna be a Retribution Paladin, being next on an A tier. What could I say about Retri? Overall, super solid performance coming from Retribution Paladin. One of the best classes to start with if you're a beginner player. Great AoE damage, decent single target, not really that great. Prior damage, non-existent. But overall, in my opinion, you're still gonna you know, play fantastic. However, the numbers are not quite good to be placed in an S tier, you know. Insane utility, super tanky. If they were having better output, especially like proud target damage, I would have climbed much higher for that Red Paladin. But I think for now speaking, Red Paladin is definitely A tier performer. Shadow Priest going to the A tier. Why do I not think Shadow Priest will be S tier? Why is that? Now hear me out. Before you put the gun on me, hear me out. There are several fundamental issues with the spec being to the S tier. Listen up. Listen up. First and foremost, the damage output definitely could be A+ tier worthy. There are some cases in some dungeons that Shadow Priest could definitely be A+ tier at minimum. Okay? They have what it takes. I don't think the output that they do is good enough for the S tier. I don't think so. I don't think so. Maybe in some dungeons. Maybe. Only maybe. So, I have already spoken about Shadow Crash many times in the past. It's still an issue, especially in like mass pools. The mass dungeons, 10, 12, 15 mobs at a time, could make Shadow Priest not as good as they are. Okay? Second thing, Shadow Priest is only really good on high level keys. Like whenever you push like 13s, 12s, 14s, 15s, then when mobs have a lot of HP, your Void Form can get the full value out of it. Therefore, you can get to the A+ tier. But if I have to consider low level keys, definitely A tier performance on average. Okay, think about that, by the way. Think about that. You have good utility, Forbidding Embrace, for example, Master Spell, PI, Stamina buff, Control, MC, Mind Suit, etc. Shadow Crash is an issue, especially if you miss Shadow Crash. Mobility could be an issue, but nobody cares about this shit. If you blast, don't matter. If Disc Priest end up being the top right now, you are not gonna be S tier. No chance in hell. If Disc Priest becomes S tier, I'm not saying it is. I don't want to spoil, but if Disc is S tier, zero chance Shadow is S tier. Zero. I'm willing to bet everything that this spec will not make it to S tier. No chance. And one more thing. One more thing. If they're so good in raiding, there is a high chance for them to get slapped on a butt like this. You know? There's 2 more weeks of tuning. They always tune stuff around raiding. If your spec is turbo broken in raid, there is a chance to get spanked and technically get hit on, you know, like a small bump down. So don't be too optimistic. Don't be too optimistic. I think Shadow Priest, if I have to consider all key levels, high keys, mid-level keys, low keys, A tier. That's it. A tier. A tier. A tier. A tier. I'm sorry, A tier. A tier. In some cases, A+. In some cases. Some cases. Alright. That's enough. Let's move forward. Enough cope. I'm gonna get a lot of hate, but listen, I told you that I'm always honest. And I take my L's. If I am wrong, hate me on. Well-deserved hate. I gave you my opinion on why do I think Shadow Priest A tier. Here it is, chat. Here it is, boys. I know I can hurt a lot of you, but I'll be honest. Guardian Druid going from B tier to A tier. Yep, promoted. Especially with the damage buffs now, you can play more defensive builds, which means you are going to be more tanky and still do damage and still hold a threat. So overall, I think Guardian Druid benefited a lot from the recent buffs, although every tank did benefit. If you play full on tanky build, Guardian is gonna feel solid. Improved performance here. Utility wise, super strong. Mob control, one of the weaker mob controls, honestly. Outside of Roar, Typhoon, not much to control the mobs. Like compared to Prot Paladin, for example, compared to like Blood DK, compared to like Vengeance DH, definitely, you know, definitely not to be joked around. The Blood DK is also next in line. I know a lot of you guys can think that Blood DK is S tier. I am sorry to disappoint. Blood DK definitely not S tier. It's super strong spec on the low level keys, mid level keys. Good self-sustain, one of the best, if not the best. Good damage output as well, super strong. However, on the high level keys, you are running into an issue of just not being able to sustain through all the damage, and you're gonna end up dying, you know. So I don't think Blood DK is S tier worthy, but it's still very solid compared to like other tank specs. Probably one of the better ones, especially if you're like bugging always. So yeah, I think A tier for like Blood DK compared to like Havoc and Vengeance and like Prot Paladin is decent. Long-lived Feral Druid coming to the A tier, the very top of the A tier. Now, I know a lot of you don't have the experience nor the knowledge for like, you know, Feral Druid, because it's definitely underrepresented class, or I guess spec. But the cat is doing absolutely crazy damage in like mass AoE. Good proud damage, crazy good damage in AoE, better single target, good utility. I don't think you are worthy enough, in my opinion, to get to the A+ tier or S tier, but the package is definitely there, you know. Starvation of energy is present in some cases, which pretty much means that there's like periods of time, like pockets of time where you don't do anything. Now whether you wanna supplement and fix that with like higher haste or maybe like higher chance proc of Omen of Clarity, I don't know, but definitely could be the case in some cases. Yeah, overall I'm super impressed by Feral. Much better than last season and super fun to play. One of the specs that I would love to ult in season 2. Super fun. Yeah, that's about Feral. And you're gonna be surprised how good it is. Like, you'll be surprised. Havoc Demon Hunter going to the A+ tier. Absolutely incredible performance coming from Havoc. Honestly, I'm very surprised how good they are, especially after the most recent buffs. Super excited, super good. However, there are some bugs surrounding the spec that inflates your damage, especially about Wooden Quarry. The parallel damage that you do is likely going to get fixed, so keep that in mind. The spec itself does a lot of damage, but there are bugs that inflate your damage. The current performance around A+ tier, if they were to fix that, maybe you can drop down, you know, maybe. Depends how much of a fix it's going to be, and it really depends on how much I guess compensation buffs we get besides this. Anyway, single target, super strong, AoE damage, very good, power damage, the best in the game, good utility, defensiveness, I would say fine, you know, like Blur, Leech can heal you up, more passive verse, Skin, Netherwalk. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the performance. However, outside of the bugs that inflate your damage, in my opinion, Vengeance right now is one of the best tanks. If Vengeance ends up being the best tank in the game, that's only if there are no further changes. That also hurts your performance, because if Vengeance becomes meta, then you're a lot less likely to be picked up in Mythic Plus, just because, you know, Vengeance is like top tier. So that's another reason why you might not see them as often. Now, I've seen a lot of druids saying that balance is bad, yada yada yada. Don't buy this. Do not fall for the trap. Balanced druid AoE is crazy good. One of the best in the game right now, by the way. Single target speaking, sure, you might not be the best, but still decent there. Durability is an issue for balance. You are glass cannon. You are super squishy. The utility is great. AoE is insane. Like super S tier utility. Single target could be an issue. And durability is definitely an issue. I think you are the squishiest class in the game, I think. Like, not even joking. I can't think of like more squishy class than you. But if anybody's telling you that balance is bad and you should not play balance, please do not listen to them. They are lying. They are lying their teeth out, dude. Like, balance is great. It's great. So, But yeah, getting back to the durability, I cannot think of a spec that has less defensive options than balance if you don't count the bear. Obviously, you can stay bear, but that's not gonna give you damage. So yeah, after the most recent buffs, Iron's Warrior has become crazy good, you know, from very high single target to insane AoE damage, good consistent damage, you know, great burst as well. Iron's Warrior has become super strong. Now, if I only care about damage output, this spec deserves to be higher. If I only care about damage, if I don't care, for example, about utility, about optimal party buffs, etc., then this spec could have a chance to get like here in A+ tier. Unfortunately, with the current meta, I don't think your utility package fits the meta comp. No CR, no BL, no poison dispel, no disease dispel, no purge. So neither of this actually helps you to climb higher. If I only have to consider damage, I think the damage department could actually be A+ tier. But the tier list considers everything from durability to utility to damage to optimal raid buffs, for example. So all this combined together, I believe A+ tier is a very good performance coming from ARMS. Keep in mind that that spec was C tier a month and a half ago. So from a month and a half ago, going from C to A+, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 spots climbing up. I mean, you can't really not be happy about that one. Overall, I still think you're gonna be super solid, likely better in rating, by the way. Especially if you consider the execute damage, which I think ARMS has right now by far the best execute after the buffs. So still pretty good. Frost Mage. Super solid performance coming from Frost Mages. Good prior damage, good single target, very good AoE damage. Outside of cooldowns, especially outside of like ice events, definitely can be a punishing moment. But overall, besides this, super solid. You know, unfortunately, I could see fire being the dominant spec, hence why you might not be picked up as often. But if you are a Frost Mage one trick, don't worry, you're gonna be in a super good state so far. So don't worry about it. You're gonna be super good. You know, that's what I think about Frost Mage. Maybe if they buffed the spec a bit more, then I could see them S tier, maybe. But I think so far, like fire is better overall. So there's just like no reason to play Frost. And about A+ tier, I already forgot about this, but I'm gonna bring out the conversation, chat. Mistweaver against Disc Priest. I have spoken about this many times, but I'll give you what I think. I don't think Mistweaver can compete with S tier so far, even though the damage and HPS are S tier. I think the utility and the externals coming from you are not as dominant compared to like Priest. Unfortunately, Priest utility, especially the externals like PS, for example, and Barrier, Stamina buff and PI, is just way too strong. It fits the meta way better compared to Mistweaver, which Mistweaver has, if I gotta be honest, outside of like good HPS output, DPS output, better single target, by the way. This is just better, like with like externals, which can help your team survive in high keys, like Stamina, for example, and shields, etc. Definitely can survive higher keys with a Priest compared to like Mistweaver. However, Mistweaver has better mob control, uninterrupt, and in my opinion has better PO. Because think about it, AoE stun, kick, ring of peace, all of this can help your team have better crowd control on mobs, which for perks, in my opinion, could be S tier. If you're playing full on perk, Mistweaver could be S tier for you. Disc Priest, I think, is only gonna be the best healer on the high level keys, but for like average keys, mid level keys, low level keys, Mistweaver could be S tier, 100%. Especially how strong of a single target you have, AoE damage as well, and it also is super fun to play, by the way. If I have to consider funness, Monk is super fun to play. So super good. I don't think you're gonna be S tier, however, on the high keys. With the most recent nerfs to enhance, I believe Ellie has the possibility to get to the S tier. Hence why I'm putting Ellie right up there. Stick it into the S tier, chat. No cap. No cap. Ellie is actually turbo good. The only way that you can get out of the S tier is if you pull like extremely large, like let's say 20 mobs at a time. Maybe not. But Ellie is super, super good. It's extremely good. You guys just haven't seen Ellie shamans at all in M+. Maybe you have seen some, but Ellie is like super good. And keep in mind that the enhanced nerfs now can bring Ellie a lot more in line and potentially can fight Ellie for the Sky Fury buff, which again, enhanced has always been a dominant spec for the high Sky Fury. However, after the nerf, Ellie now can get into conversation. And one more thing, even if enhanced is better, even if the mage stays S tier, 3% more buff for Ellie, which can make it better than enhanced shaman. Okay, here we go. Here we go, baby. I'm saying it right now. I think Ellie has the potential, the chance, the small glimpse of hope to be S tier. I am not coping. I am being absolutely honest. If you are Ellie main right now, you have the possibility to get to the S tier. Listen, I have said this many times in the past. Last season, you guys didn't believe me. I said Ellie could be S tier. You guys didn't believe me. This tier, I'm saying the same shit, by the way. Ellie has a chance to get to the top. Okay, it has a chance. I'm not saying it is gonna be like super S. There is a small chance that Ellie can make it to the top. Okay. I'm being honest. The utility of like shamans is insane. Group buff, utility, short kick, BL. I mean, what else do you want? You know? So yeah, that's why I think Ellie could be S tier. Speaking about S tier and Ellie, I cannot not say that enhance also goes to the S tier. Obviously, I've already said this many times before. Enhance was so far ahead of any other spec in the game that after the nerfs, it's more in line now with the specs. You know, after all the nerfs done to the spec, still S tier, still one of the strongest single target, still insanely good AoE damage, insane utility, short interrupt as well. I would not be surprised if this spec yet remains for season 2 as S tier. I would not be surprised. Super solid performance coming from enhanced shamans as well. It went from S+ tier to only S tier. So yeah. So far, I think both specs have equal chance to get to the S tier. But the enhanced nerfs made Ellie a lot more of a viable choice. Because in some cases, you could actually prefer Ellie over enhanced. In some cases. Especially if it's like a range dominant meta, Wind Fury is not to be considered. Except for your tank, you know? Because all the DPS don't benefit from that shit. Only you. Obviously, everybody benefits from like mastery, but whatever. I'm just talking about like Wind Fury itself. So, and the 3% mage buff can make Ellie actually, in some cases, better, which is something to consider. Speaking about S tier, you guys already saw this, but I will speak about it again. Vengeance, Prot Paladin, Disc Priest, all to the S tier. I'll give you explanation for like, you know, all of this. So why is Vengeance S tier? First of all and foremost, very high self-sustain, the best DPS in the game so far, incredibly tanky too, good utility, fits the meta with the caster comps right now, especially given the Chaos brand. Good mob control, one of the best, for example, Sigils, Fear, Silence, Stun. So all of this considered together, I think Vengeance right now is the dominant spec, likely to remain S tier. Prot Paladin, why is Prot Paladin still S tier after the nerfs? Even though the durability and damage has been nerfed on Prot Paladin, that is true. The utility and the toolkit remain the best in the game. There is a chance if this spec gets to be buffed to be still S tier. Your utility is just way too good. Just way too good to be ignored. And I still think there is a small chance that if Vengeance gets to be nerfed, there is a chance that Prot Paladin could take its place. Also, Prot Paladin has a CR, which right now, as you can see, it's quite dire in the S tier. There are no CRs apart from like Prot Paladin right now, which could be, you know, a determining factor if I don't consider obviously Deathstroke right now. Now, speaking to the elephant in the room, I know a lot of you guys would be displeased when I say this, but I still believe that BM Hunter, even after the tier set nerfs, even after the 4% nerf, I still believe that BM Hunter is the S tier spec so far going to the season 2. I don't think you're the best spec, but I think you are definitely S tier worthy right now. Super strong performance, especially in like mass AoE. Great, one of the best consistent damage profile in the game. The single target is not the best, I agree with that, but apart from this, super solid. Now, there are some pros and cons. You don't have raid buff. No raid buff. In my opinion, utility package is okay because, you know, I mean, it's not really insane. Let's just say mid package. The raid buffs are the biggest issue with the spec so far. No CR, you have a BL, but BL is irrelevant because Oak Evoker is still the best, like one of the best specs, so that BL argument is irrelevant. You have AoE stop and a few single target stops, but the Hunter's Mark is just bad. It's just bad design for M+. Hence why I think the BM Hunter is still gonna be S tier, but only because damage. Only because damage. If you were to get nerfed in damage, this will probably plummet super strong, like down to A tier, maybe even B+, depends on the nerfs. Yeah, that's what I think about BM Hunter. Speaking about the rest, now, there's several things I would like to say this. First of all, I know people have been capping on Oak Evoker. Oak Evoker has been obviously nerfed, like a week ago got nerfed, but I still think it's gonna be the best pickup for next season for high keys. If you're playing high keys above, let's say 12, 13, 14s, Oak Evoker is still gonna be the dominant spec here, 100%. Like, I know you guys are hoping that that's not gonna be the case. It will still be the case. Super strong package, ability to have super high personal damage as well, high even might uptime as well. Now you're gonna buff DPS players even more. Sure, you got nerfed, you don't really impact tanks and healers as much, but still can make tanks tankier and healers heal more, a little bit. Cheat there as well, and help your team survive better. Give versatility to your DPSers, help them with surviving. I mean, what else do you want from the spec, you know? So yeah, I think it's still gonna be S tier by far. Last but not least, Fire Mage, Destrolock. A lot of people are saying Destro is bugged out. I agree. Current Destruction Warlock is S tier performance, but there are some bugs that inflate Destro damage profile. So once those buffs gets to be targeted, I think Destro will go more in line with A+ tier. Even after the nerfs, which again, they have not been nerfed yet. Even after the nerfs, I still believe Destro will likely get to the A+ tier. Current performance, S tier. One of the few specs I have a CR, super strong AoE, actually the best AoE damage profile in the game. And utility wise is good, not the best, no party buffs, but health stones, which actually is pretty good. So yeah, I think that's about this row. And then Fire Mage is Fire Mage. I think so far for the past 3 weeks they have been in S tier. Super strong AoE damage, one of the best single targets in the game, good execute, good prio. I guess depends on the build you're playing. The best utility in the game, extremely tanky as well. It fits the best meta, especially with caster comps. So overall, Fire Mage to S tier. Now, to answer the questions one by one, there are S tier means these specs have the highest chance to get to the S tier. Remember, we are still in PTR. Season arrives on a 4th of March. There are 2 more weeks of tuning. At the end of the tuning, this S tier will be only taken by 3 specs. So far, there are 5. Or I guess 6 if you want to count Evoker. So 5 so far. 2 more weeks of tuning. We're still in a testing period. We're still within, not being finalized. The final update on a tier list will happen on the 2nd of March. 2nd of March is the final meeting for us before the season opens. Until then, I hope to get 2 more weeks of tuning. 2 more weeks. There are a few bug classes. Sub Rogue still needs changes. Havoc DH still need to be fixed with their bugs. Destrolock is bugged out too. A lot of other specs do have some bugs as well. Definitely something to keep your eyes on. I believe in the upcoming few weeks is where they're gonna polish the I guess all specs, and they're gonna ship the product. But so far, to me, it looks still incomplete. There are some things that still need some changes, and I guess if you look at it from this POV, they are running out of time. This is gonna be one of the first times in a history of Mythic Plus where they could release actually a broken product, which again, I don't want to see that. I hope they fix all the issues. I really hope they can actually, you know, have the time to fix it. Yeah, that's what I think, chat. So overall, if I am to pick the best 5